2 years had passed since her parents' separation, and Sofia was now 8 years old. During this time, her mother, Anna, had done everything she could to create a stable and loving environment for her and Maria. The constant presence of João, Sofia's uncle, continued to be a pillar of support for the family. Then something unexpected happened. Anna started dating again. His name was Marcelo, a kind and caring man who had been Pedro's boss, Sofia's father. Marcelo and Anna got to know each other better after the separation and, over time, their relationship blossomed. Sofia had mixed feelings about Marcelo. He was always very kind to her and Maria, but she couldn't help but feel a certain loyalty to her father. Is it wrong to like him? Sofia wondered. Meanwhile, another significant change was happening in Sofia's life. She began to have contact with Clara, her father's new wife, and her half-brother, Lucas. The first interactions were tense and awkward. Clara did her best to be friendly, but Sofia still had a lot of hurt and confusion. One afternoon, Sofia was invited to her father's house for a family lunch. She felt nervous and anxious as Clara tried to create a welcoming environment. Lucas, now almost 2 years old, ran around the room with contagious energy. Sofia watched him, trying to understand his feelings. "Hi, Sofia. Do you want to play with Lucas?" Clara asked, trying to bridge the gap between them. Sofia hesitated, but approached slowly. She saw Lucas' bright eyes, which looked so innocent and happy. "Hi, Lucas," she said softly. "Do you want to play with cars?" Lucas laughed and ran to Sofia, handing her one of the toys. As they played together, Sofia realized that, despite all the complications, Lucas was not to blame for anything. He was just a boy who wanted to play and be happy. Family lunches at his father's house began to become an occasional routine. Each meeting brought new challenges and moments of growth. Sofia began to understand that her family had changed, but that she could still find ways to love and connect with everyone. At the same time, Anna's relationship with Marcelo deepened. Marcelo was attentive and treated Sofia and Maria as if they were his own daughters. He took them for walks in the park, helped Sofia with her homework, and told Maria stories before bed. One day, while they were walking in the park, Sofia decided to talk to her mother about her feelings. "Mommy, I like Marcelo, but sometimes I feel guilty for liking him. Is it wrong?" Anna stopped and looked into Sofia's eyes tenderly. "Sofia, it's not wrong. Marcelo is a good person who cares a lot about us. You can like him without feeling guilty. Your father will always be your father, but Marcelo is here to help us be happy." Sofia felt relief upon hearing her mother's words. She knew life would never be the same, but she was beginning to accept that happiness could be found in different ways. Things were still awkward and complicated, but Sofia's courage and resilience helped her face each challenge. She continued to draw in her pink notebook, capturing the new members of her family and the happy moments they now shared. After a year of Sofia's mother's relationship with Marcelo, life seemed to be stabilizing. Sofia had gotten used to Marcelo's presence and even developed a friendly relationship with him. However, a new challenge would arise to test the family's harmony. Marcelo's brother, Tiago, became very ill. In the small town where he lived, there was no adequate treatment for his condition. Marcelo, worried about his brother's health, suggested that Tiago come and live with them for treatment in the big city. Sofia's mother readily agreed, wanting to help in any way she could. When Tiago arrived, it was clear that his presence would be a challenge. He had a very peculiar way and, at times, seemed to have no social filters. His behavior was unpredictable and at times intrusive, which quickly bothered Sofia. She felt that Tiago was invading her personal space, both physically and emotionally. One night, while Sofia was studying in her room, Tiago entered without knocking. He started going through her things, seemingly for no reason. Sofia tried to be polite, but her patience was running out. "Tiago, could you please leave my room? I need some privacy to study," she asked politely but firmly. Tiago looked at her for a moment, without responding, and finally left, but the feeling of discomfort remained. Sofia told her mother how uncomfortable she felt with Tiago's presence. "Mom, I understand that he's sick and needs help, but he's always invading my space. I don't know how much longer I can take this," Sofia said, trying to hold back the tears. Sofia's mother understood her daughter's dilemma, but she also knew that Marcelo was very worried about Tiago. She promised to talk to Marcelo to find a solution that was fair for everyone. The next morning, during breakfast, Sofia's mother broached the subject with Marcelo. "Marcelo, we need to talk about Tiago. I know he's going through a difficult time, but so is Sofia. She needs her space and privacy," she said carefully. Marcelo listened carefully and agreed. He spoke to Tiago about the importance of respecting Sofia's space and agreed to try to create a more harmonious environment in the house. Despite efforts, living with Tiago continued to be a challenge. Sofia realized that she would need to find a way to deal with the situation. She decided to seek support in her friendships and also began to take an interest in activities outside the home, seeking a balance to maintain her mental health. Sofia knew she was facing a difficult time, but she also knew it was an opportunity to grow and further develop her resilience. She was determined to find a way to adapt without neglecting her needs and well-being. As the weeks went by, Sofia struggled to find a balance amid Tiago's presence in her home. She dedicated herself more to her studies, focusing on her extracurricular activities and trying to spend more time with her friends. This helped her deal with stress at home. One afternoon, upon returning from school, Sofia found her mother in the kitchen, visibly tired. Sensing something was wrong, Sofia asked, "Mom, is everything okay?" Sofia's mother sighed deeply before answering, "I'm worried about Tiago. He seems to be getting worse, and the tension in the house isn't helping. I know it's been hard for you too." Sofia felt a lump in her throat. Despite Tiago's intrusive behavior, she knew he was suffering. She decided to try to be more understanding and find a way to help. Furthermore, Sofia was increasingly worried about her little sister, Maria, who was also being bothered by Tiago's unpredictable behavior. That night, after putting Maria to sleep, Sofia went to Tiago's room and knocked softly on the door before entering. He was lying on the bed, staring at the ceiling. "Tiago, can we talk?" she asked. He nodded, not taking his eyes off the ceiling. Sofia sat on the edge of the bed and took a deep breath. "I know this is hard for you, and I know I'm not being very patient. I want to help, but I also need you to understand that breaking in my space makes me uncomfortable. Furthermore, Maria is small and is getting scared by some of her actions. Can we try to find a middle ground?" Tiago turned his head and looked at her. For the first time, Sofia saw an expression of understanding and perhaps even gratitude in his eyes. "I'm sorry, Sofia. I didn't mean to bother you or scare Maria. It's just that sometimes I feel so alone and scared," he admitted, his voice low and shaky. Sofia was surprised by Tiago's sincerity. She realized that despite his strange behavior, he was just seeking comfort in the midst of his illness. "Let's try this," she suggested. "You can come talk to me when you feel lonely, but you need to knock on the door and wait for me to answer before you come in. And I promise to try to be more patient with you. And as for Maria, try to be more gentle and careful around her, okay?" Tiago nodded, a small smile forming on his lips. From that day on, things slowly started to improve. Tiago made an effort to respect Sofia's space and be more careful with Maria, and Sofia, in turn, seemed more understanding and available to talk to him. Over time, the relationship between them began to strengthen. Sofia realized that, despite the difficulties, this experience was teaching her a lot about empathy and patience. She also noticed an improvement in Tiago's behavior, which seemed calmer and less intrusive. Living with Tiago still presented challenges, but Sofia felt that she was learning to deal with the situation better. His mother and Marcelo also noticed the positive change and were relieved to see that harmony in the house was gradually being restored. Sofia knew there was still a long way to go, but she felt more confident in her ability to face adversity. She continued to seek support from her friends and engage in activities that made her happy, finding a balance between her needs and the demands of her new family reality. Over time, the situation at home began to stabilize. Tiago was more aware of his behavior, and this brought relief to both Sofia and Maria. Maria, although small, noticed the change in the environment and seemed less scared, returning to being the happy child she always was. One afternoon, while Sofia was in the park, her friend Jose appeared. Jose was one of Sofia's closest friends and knew a little about the situation at home. "Hi, Sofia," Jose said, smiling as he approached. "Hi, Jose. How are you?" Sofia replied, happy to see her friend. "Okay, yes. What about you guys? How are things at home?" Sofia sighed, but smiled. "They're getting better. James is trying to behave better, and Mary is less scared. It's still difficult, but we're adjusting." Jose nodded, understanding. "I'm glad to hear that. And you, how are you feeling?" Sofia looked at Maria, who was busy playing with other children in the park, and then turned her gaze to Jose. "I'm tired, but I feel like I'm learning a lot. I never thought I'd have to deal with something like this, but I think it's making me stronger." Jose smiled. "You're very strong, Sofia. If you need anything, you know you can count on me, right?" Sofia nodded, grateful. "Thank you, Jose. Your support means a lot to me." As the days passed, Sofia found a new rhythm in her life. Her relationship with Tiago continued to improve, and she felt more confident in her ability to deal with adversity. She and her mother started to have deeper conversations about the situation, which also helped Sofia feel more supported. One day, upon arriving home after school, Sofia found Tiago in the living room, looking at an album of old photos. He looked nostalgic, and Sofia decided to sit next to him. "What are you seeing, Tiago?" she asked softly. Tiago smiled wistfully. "Photos from our childhood. Marcelo and I used to be very close. It's hard to believe how much things have changed." Sofia looked at the photos, seeing images of a young Tiago and Marcelo smiling and playing together. It was a reminder that, despite all the difficulties, Tiago was also a person who had a story, memories, and feelings. "Sometimes things change in ways we don't expect," Sofia said, placing a comforting hand on Tiago's shoulder. "But we can still create new memories and happy moments." Tiago nodded, looking a little more hopeful. "You're right, Sofia. Thank you for being so understanding." From that moment on, Sofia and Tiago began to share more moments together, talking about their lives, dreams, and fears. Maria's presence also brought joy to everyone, with her innocence and contagious energy. The house was far from perfect, but everyone was learning to find their place and support each other. Sofia knew that there were still challenges ahead, but she felt more prepared to face them, knowing that she had the support of her family and friends. The following months brought a more stable routine for Sofia and her family. Tiago followed his treatment and, little by little, managed to be more respectful of the limits of everyone in the house. Maria was calmer and returned to being the happy child she always was. Sofia, at 9 years old and in the 3rd grade, was more focused on her studies and playing with her sister Maria. She still didn't fully understand the gravity of Tiago's situation, but she felt something was wrong. One day, after a morning of school, Sofia arrived home and noticed a tense atmosphere. His mother and Marcelo were talking in whispers in the kitchen. Sofia was quiet as she entered, trying to understand what was happening. That night, during dinner, Marcelo carefully explained to Sofia about Tiago's health condition and the need for him to be admitted to the hospital quickly. "Tiago is very sick, Sofia," said Marcelo, his voice breaking. "The doctors are doing the best they can to help him, but it's a difficult time for all of us." Sofia looked at her mother, who had tears in her eyes. She felt her heart sink, realizing that something serious was happening to Marcelo's brother. In the following days, Sofia visited Tiago in the hospital a few times. She held his hand carefully, trying to understand what was happening. Tiago smiled weakly at her, but his eyes showed tiredness and pain. Unfortunately, Tiago's condition did not improve. Sofia, still trying to understand the gravity of the situation, was informed by her mother that Tiago had died in the hospital. She couldn't hold back her tears, hugging her mother tightly. Sofia felt relieved to return to her family environment, where she felt more comfortable. Despite her sadness at the loss of Tiago, she found solace in the warm support of her mother, Marcelo, and the lively games with Maria. In the days that followed, 9-year-old Sofia's routine continued with school and daily activities. She tried to focus on her studies and distract herself with the fun times she shared with her family. Her mother, realizing the emotional impact of Tiago's loss on Sofia, tried to be even more present and affectionate. On a sunny afternoon, while playing in the backyard with Maria, Sofia thought about what Tiago meant to her family. She kept memories of the happy moments they spent together, like the stories he told her and the times he helped her with her math homework. At night, before going to sleep, Sofia talked to her mother about her memories of Tiago. "Mommy, why do people die?" she asked, looking at her mother with curious, sad eyes. Sofia's mother sat next to her on the bed, holding her hand lovingly. "It's a hard part of life, darling," her mother replied in a soft voice. "We all go through this at some point. But the memories we have of people like Tiago help us keep alive what they meant to us." Sofia nodded, absorbing her mother's words. She felt grateful for her family's love and support. To be continued.